What's the best thing about being married to David Beckham? Oh, thank you. Hello again, everybody. Thank you for coming back. So, I'm thrilled, Victoria, to be talking with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. I know you've just landed from somewhere exotic. So, I was thinking over the weekend, knowing that this conversation was going to happen, that you and I actually go back a very long time. And I first became aware of you through my children, who were huge fans and insisted that I take them to see you perform as a Spice Girl in New York City and then go backstage to say hello, which is how the Spice Girls ended up on the cover of Vogue, 1998. And it was a very much discussed cover and extremely well received. And then a few years later, Victoria, you and I would see each other when you would hold those small presentations for your Victoria Beckham collections. And I remember thinking that was really brave of you, because you were speaking directly to a slightly too cool for school group of journalists about your vision of fashion. But as Chloe just pointed out, this has clearly paid off because your recent show was the most viewed of the entire spring 2025 collections. Wow. So, well, bravo, thank you. And as I mentioned to those of you who were with us earlier this morning, and as Chloe pointed out, there is a film crew here today filming you for your Netflix documentary that's coming out, I think, next year. Victoria, you and I have discussed your slight frustration that you are seen here in the United States, particularly as a former Spice Girl. And your family are currently now filming a documentary that's based on you. So did this come about because of a perceived lack of recognition for Victoria Beckham as a designer and an entrepreneur? Was it a way for you to set the record straight?
Well, you started off by saying how we go quite a long way back. And I have to say that every time I come to New York, I love to catch up with Anna. And we quite often have a very early breakfast. And you're always so kind and generous when offering advice and help. And I'm like a sponge. And I remember sitting in this office with you saying, Anna, how do I tell my story in America? I think in the UK and Europe, people don't look at me as a Spice Girl first and foremost now, because I do think that I've earned my stripes, if you like, with fashion and beauty. But I still think that I have to work on that messaging here in America. And I think we talked about a documentary, and I think that I said something along the lines of, oh my goodness, absolutely not. Filming Beckham was hard. Mm-hmm. And then you said to me, but the power of Netflix and how I could use that to really shine a light on my brand, both fashion and beauty. So the documentary that we're filming is not a lifestyle documentary. It's not Beckham 2. It really is about me building both fashion and beauty. The crew have been following me on the lead up to my show in Paris, really showing what goes on behind the brand and how I built it.
And David actually told me in Paris that you were really enjoying it. Is that right?
Well, I fought against it for a long time, but once I decide to do something, it is what it is. And I have the most wonderful crew, all very, very talented. I respect them all a lot. And they're actually very nice to have around, I have to say. It's not sit-down interviews. I'm getting on with work.
Yes.
And they're
well,
filming.
Watch out. You forget they're there after a while. So when the actual feature film comes out on the Beckhams, not the documentary, what would be your ideal casting for you, Victoria?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I wasn't expecting that question. I don't know. Who do you think would be a good?
Well, I actually thought Margaret Qualley would be a good.
Okay.
Yes. And then what about for David?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this question. I mean, I don't know, let's say Brad Pitt. All right. He looks good.
Well, I was thinking Joe Alwyn, maybe a little younger. Yes.
Okay,
Anyway.
okay.
So, Victoria, backstage, you were talking about your children and how proud you are of them. And obviously, they've grown up so much in the public eye. And I'm just curious, as a mother, how you've managed to navigate that. And that must have caused you some concern at some point. And obviously, except for Harper now, they're out in the world, but still, I know you're always a mother. So I'm just wondering how you feel about that.
Being a mother is my most important role and what I am most proud of. And I think it's about making sure that we're a very close family. It's all about communication. We talk all the time. There's always this safe space where all of the children can feel free to talk about anything. And our parents have always been very involved with bringing the children up as well. They're all very sweet, kind, funny, humble, hardworking, driven young people. And every time anybody meets one of the kids, they will always compliment the children on how nice they are, how humble they are. And I think that is such a compliment when anybody says that your kids are great.
And they have excellent manners.
Absolutely. They had no choice.
Okay, so let's move to fashion. So Vera Wang. Vera Wang has a wardrobe, I have seen it, about as large as this room, that is full of Prada and Comme des Garçons. So when you're not wearing Victoria Beckham, who do you go to?
My closet is what I would call organized chaos. So I know where everything is, and I have a storage facility so I can rotate things because I do have more clothes than him. Quite often samples that I've borrowed for shoots, from work. So what other brands do I wear? I occasionally I might wear a bit of Balenciaga. I might wear a little bit of Saint Laurent. But what I love now about what I'm doing after, when I first started my collection 17 years ago, I focused just on dresses. Now I'm doing knitwear and tailoring and really every element of the wardrobe, including accessories. So I don't often wear other brands because ultimately I'm creating what I want and what I desire.
Well, Vogue is very curious about your closet policy. Mm-hmm. Can family members borrow your vintage, and what are the rules? Do they have to check them in and out, or?
Yeah, I'm not too precious about those things, unless it's Hermes. And when Harper eyes up those handbags, and not just yet. But other than
Lucky
that, I think that, I love my clothes and I look after my clothes, but I think that clothes are also there to be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And if one of the young kids wants to borrow my clothes, whether it's Harper or one of the boys' girlfriends, that's flattery, right? Because they're significantly younger than me, so that's good.
So, Victoria, recently you decided to move your show to Paris. And obviously, there are many reasons why people want to show in Paris, beyond the fact that it's the most beautiful city in the world. But how has showing in Paris really changed your outlook on what you do? And obviously, what we'll be seeing in the documentary, I'm interested to know from showing from those little shows that we used to see here in New York and sometimes in bigger shows here and in London, what made you decide to go to Paris?
Well, Paris was always the dream. Mm-hmm. You've got to bring your A game when you show in Paris, and I felt that pressure. I enjoy that pressure. It's made a huge difference business-wise to me, to be there amongst the biggest houses and the most respected houses in the industry has been really quite incredible, and I have noticed a big, big difference and how it's affected the business in such a positive way. It really is the main stage, I believe, during
So you'll
Fashion
be
Week.
staying there?
I will be
welcome you
staying
back to
there.
New York anytime.
No, but I love the fact that I can travel, and there's so much that we can do. When we had breakfast a few months ago, we talked about, do I show a pre-collection here? America is so important to me. This is where I started. I spent 7 years living in America. For 9 years, I showed my collections here in New York. So having the opportunity to travel and think outside of the box is something that excites me as well. But definitely main collections, Staying in Paris at the moment.
Our loss. So you're good friends, of course, with many famous people, but you also hang out with designers, say, like Marc Jacobs. And I'm just curious, who has given you good advice over the years that you really remember? And, you know, is it Tom? Is it Marc? Whose words do you remember?
You know, Marc Jacobs, right at the beginning, he said to me, he said, you've got to stop saying that people left their preconceptions at the door when they reviewed your collection. And I said, but they did, you know, I don't come from a traditional design background. He said they did not leave their preconceptions at the door. What happened is the product was good. And he said, as long as the product and the quality is good, no one can ever say it's rubbish.
So that stayed with you?
That did stay with me. And Roland Mouret also was a mentor right at the beginning. Right. You know, he really was. He is probably the one designer that believed in me right at the beginning, and supported me and made me believe in myself as well.
In our Vogue 90s documentary, you talk about the designers that inspired you, but I'm just curious, what's your very first fashion memory? Do you have one as a child?
Oh my gosh, I do. When I was in the Spice Girls, Donatella Versace invited me to go to Milan to a fashion show. And I remember she sent a private plane. I'd never been in a private plane before. And I went to Milan, and she took me to the Versace store to dress me in Versace for the fashion show and for the party afterwards. And I put the clothes on, and then I said, yeah, I like it, but how about we change the length, take the, you know, and I completely redesigned the outfit. And I think back to it, and I think, my goodness, I can't believe I had the audacity to do that.
How was the show?
The show was great, and I really liked what I was wearing. But, you know, it was coming from such a sweet, innocent place. But I look back and I think, how could I ever have said to Donatella, I like your dress, but how about we rethink it?
I'm sure she liked you more for your honesty. So people here in this room, they may not be aware of this, but you've also walked the runway, Victoria, for a British designer some years back. Is that right?
I did too. I did one for Maria Gretsch-Vogel, and I walked in the Cavalli show as well.
Oh, I didn't know about that. So we're going to see you back on the runway?
Absolutely not. Do you know, oh my gosh, no. I remember phoning my mum just before I went on, and I said, I'm so nervous. And I don't know how old I was. I must have been like 26 or something. She said, well, you've been walking for about 24 years, so you should have it together by now. And this is the same advice that I gave to Romeo, our middle son, who is now modeling, and he walked his first fashion show during Fashion Week. He walked in the Balenciaga show.
It was a good first choice. Last fashion question, then we'll move on to something else. Is there anyone you're dying to dress or to see in Victoria Beckham that you haven't yet?
I would love to dress Angelina Jolie. I think she would look fantastic in Victoria Beckham. I always feel very honoured when anybody chooses to wear my designs. I think that people have so much choice. And anytime anybody chooses to wear something of mine, you know, even if I see someone walking down the street or if I'm at a restaurant, I feel that makes me feel very happy and proud.
Right. So switching subjects away from fashion, I know you went to theatre school, and I hear there were some pretty memorable performances. So what was your favourite part you played as a teenager?
Oh my God, I honestly thought you were about to ask me to sing Mein Herr.
Well, I could do
from
that
Cabaret. That's what I was expecting. Gosh, my favourite role, I think it probably would have been something from Cabaret. I went to theatre school, and I grew up loving musical theatre. So that was, you know, Cats, Starlight Express, Miss Saigon. And that was my passion. That's what I wanted to do, to go into musicals. And then I, you know, took a different route. Yeah. I found myself in a pop group. But
well, if you had continued along that route, and I know that you once wanted to be a theatre dancer in the West End, what would have been your dream role?
Oh my gosh, undoubtedly the white cat in Cats. I'm not sure I was good. Well, I wasn't good enough because I auditioned and I didn't get it. But that would have been my dream, absolutely.
Okay. So what was the last thing discussed in the Beckham family group chat?
Oh, the last thing in the group chat, gosh, what was that? Well, we always message each other when we're traveling, when we're flying, and so probably just something really quite simple, like have a safe flight, something like that, because we're very, very close family. We talk a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. So David has his bees and his honey. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering what your unexpected pastime or hobby or passion is.
Oh, gosh. What do I like to do? What do I like to do in my goodness, I like to work out, but that's not really in my spare time. That's just something that I know is very important to you as well. It's just something that I do every day. I like to read. I like to, we're both enjoying educating ourselves with regards to art as well. This is something we've been into for quite a few years now, but I think it's something that we're enjoying doing together.
But you don't join him in the bee house. Is it a bee house? What's it? A hive?
A beehive.
Yes.
Well, I mean, he's got one of the white outfits, and we have had sort of like a family moment where we've all had the white outfits on. But no, that's something that David is so passionate about, and something that we can enjoy as a family as well.
I don't know. I find bees very terrifying. I know you're a very avid reader. So if I was in the Victoria Beckham book club, what would we be reading?
Oh gosh. Well, right now I've been reading very, very easy reads because obviously we've been on summer holiday. So I recently read The Housemaid. Not the most academic read, but it's an easy, fun read. Okay.
I'm reading Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, which I highly recommend.
Well, that's definitely different to what I've been reading.
So my last question, I did not think of it. It came from another source. What's the best thing about being married to David Beckham?
David he's a great dad. He's a really, really great dad. And he's very kind, very generous. He has an amazing business mind as well that I find inspiring. And he's very kind and generous. And he's a lot funnier. I mean, you know how funny David can be. He's a lot funnier than anybody would ever imagine.
Do you know who the source was?
Probably David himself. Oh. And I mean, he's very humble.
So we were meant to record the answer, which I'm sure we have. Victoria, thank you so much for coming to talk to us all. And thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.